Greetings everybody. I am Sonia. Here I am going to provide you with a concise description of an adventure of the British colonial era, the infamous Durand Treaty, which after 131 years still is a cause of contention between Afghanistan and the present-day Pakistan. I would like to bring to your attention few remarks that were omitted by many historians before, or were not known to them due to secrecy matters. Please do not forget to like the video, subscribe and click on the notification bell. The Durand Line, continued cause of tensions between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Written by Dr. Nur Ahmed Khalidi, the 23rd of February, 2024. In 2018, an American senator has suggested that US aid to Afghanistan be conditional on Afghanistan's official recognition of the Durand Line. Meanwhile, the government of Pakistan annexed the former federally administered tribal areas FATA into the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, which was called the Northwest Frontier, NWF, province, from the time of British India until recent years. In this way officially annexed the mentioned areas to the territory of Pakistan. Based on the Durand Treaty, FATA, or tribal areas, are in fact areas that were taken over by the government of British India to manage their security and administrative affairs. However, recognizing that these territories were not part of the territories of the British India. After the creation of Pakistan, Pakistan continued to manage their administration. However, these areas legally remained outside the official territory of Pakistan, because Pakistan became the sole heir of the respective territories of those British India provinces that joined to form Pakistan. Nevertheless, the administration of these areas continued by the federal government of Pakistan as during British colonial times. During the debate on the annexation of FATA into Pakistan, the members of the Jamiat-Ulema-Islam Party led by Maulana Fazlur Rahman and the Pashtun National Awami Party led by Mahmud Khan Aksaksai refused to participate in the Pakistan Parliament meeting. The Ministry of Ethnic and Tribal Affairs of Afghanistan rejected the annexation of the tribal areas to the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province of Pakistan. Calling it a unilateral act, the Deputy Minister told Radio Azadi that Islamabad did not take the opinion of the tribal people into account, and that this action is taken to formally recognize the Durand Line as the state border between the two countries. Once again, the conflicting opinions about the Durand Line and its current position became the hot topic of political commentary by the media in Afghanistan. In this article, an effort is made to objectively examine the issue of the Durand Line Treaty validity in order to clarify the public's mind. Here, the purpose of examining the issue of the Durand Line Treaty is to better understand the Durand Treaty itself and its current legal status. In this article, an attempt is made to answer some questions being discussed in the media about the Durand Line. When Mount Stuart Elphinstone, as the political representative of the British colonists, visited Shah Shuja, the King of Afghanistan, in his winter capital in Peshawar in 1809 to sign a treaty of alliance against Napoleon's possible aggression. The territories of the Kabul Sultanate extended to Kashmir, Punjab and Sindh. At that time, the Afghan government was considered a potential threat against the expansion of British colonial rule in the Indian subcontinent. It should be remembered that the Maharajas of India in the last years of the 18th century had sought help from Zaman Shah, the then King of Afghanistan, and were ready to pay the expenses of the Afghan forces to expel the British from India. For this reason, the British cooperated with Ranjit Singh in Punjab to weaken the Afghan government. The idea was that Ranjit Singh would be a strong buffer zone to prevent the Afghan government helping the people of India against the British expansions. The existence of such a buffer zone or a wall gave the British time to first bring all the regions of South India under control, and then to destroy the Ranjit Singh wall itself and annex its territories into the British India. Ranjit Singh Afghan not only weakened the Afghan government, but also wrestled out Afghan territories on both sides of the Indus, including Peshawar. Hence, since 1818, as a result of the armed aggression of Ranjit Singh 1818–1838, and subsequently, the aggression of the British during the First Anglo-Afghan War 1838–1842 and the Second Anglo-Afghan War 1879–1882, the regions and territories of the Afghan government on both sides of the Indus River through war, and the imposition of colonial treaties. The conclusion of the Durand Treaty after the end of the Second Anglo-Afghan War in 1882. Many areas from Chitral in the north to Chaman in the south were occupied by the British aggressor forces, which were outside the official territories of British India. Since the spheres of influence of the governments of Afghanistan and British India were not clear in the border areas. In order to prevent conflicts between them, the Treaty of Durand was concluded on November 12, 1893, between Emir Abdulrahman Khan and Sir Mortimer Durand, the Foreign Minister of the British Indian government. The treaty was signed in Kabul. At that time, according to the colonial Treaty of Gandamak in 1879, Afghanistan was dependent on British India in the implementation of its foreign affairs. Treaty of Durand determines the spheres of influence of the two governments over the tribes that lived in the west of the Indus River from Chitral to Balochistan. On the one hand, as a result of the aggression of Ranjit Singh and the British, these areas were out of the sphere of influence of the Afghan government. But at the same time, they were not officially part of the British India territories later defined in British India Law of 1935. The North West Frontier Province was established in 1849. And according to the Durand Treaty, the free tribal areas included Chitral, Swat, Dir, Baja, Khyber, Kurram and Waziristan, were not incorporated into the NWF province. However, under the Durand Treaty, since 1893, formed a buffer zone between the territories of British India and the territories of the Afghan government, though they came under the influence of the security of British India without being officially included in the British India colonies. This arrangement, the existence of the buffer zone, remained good until the formation of Pakistan, and continued so until 2018 when Pakistan illegally annexed these areas into Pakistan. The basic question here is whether the Durand Line is the official international border between Afghanistan and Pakistan or not. According to the documents from British sources, especially the explanations provided by Durand himself, the purpose of the Durand Treaty was not to determine the border line between Afghanistan and British India, but rather to determine the limits of the influence of these two over the tribes living in the tribal areas west of the Indus River, which until today, most of these areas are called free tribal areas. Sir Henry Mortimer Durand himself, who was the Foreign Minister of the British India government in 1893, and signed the Durand Treaty with Amir Abdulrahman Khan, and the treaty is known by his name, confirms this arrangement. Durand in an interview in 1897 with the Asiatic Quarterly Journal says, "The nations situated on the Indian side are not to be considered within the limits of the British India government. They are merely, so far as the Amir is concerned, under our influence in the technical sense of the word. And so far as they give in to this influence or we will impose this influence." Encyclopaedia Britannica also writes that the Durand Treaty of 1893 defines the areas of influence of the British India government and the Afghan government for law enforcement, and was never intended as an international border. Based on the practice of the British government, the treaties with the Afghan emirs were considered personal treaties with the respective emirs by the government of British India. And with the emir's death or his dismissal, these treaties were invalid. For this purpose, if the British India government wanted to extend the term of the treaty, According to its interests, it would inevitably need the new Amir's official commitment. For this reason, after the death of Amir Abdulrahman Khan, the British took the commitment of Amir Habibullah Khan to extend the validity of the Durand Treaty in 1905, and after his death, Amir Amanullah Khan agreed to extend the validity of the Durand Treaty in the August 8, 1919 Treaty of Rawalpindi and its annexures. Under this treaty, the British recognized the complete independence of Afghanistan in its foreign affairs, and all the previous treaties with the Emirs of Afghanistan were invalidated. The British and Afghan governments remained loyal to the implementation of the 1921 Kabul Treaty until 1949, until after the establishment of the government of Pakistan, and especially in protest against the bombing of parts of Paktia province by Pakistan. The Afghan government in the Loya Jirga of 1949 terminated all treaties with the British India government. At that time, the representative of Afghanistan tried to raise the issue in the United Nations Security Council, but it was prevented by the opposition of the United States. Therefore, with the application of the Article 14 of the Kabul Treaty of 1921, the Afghan government declared this treaty null and void, and accordingly, the validity period of the Durand Treaty and subsequent related agreements was terminated. It should be noted that the Article 45 of the 1969 United Nations Convention on Treaties VCLT, United Nations 1969 Vienna Convention of Law of Treaties, which makes the treaties concluded after 1969 subject to time. However, this convention does not go back to its predecessor, so it cannot be applied to the Durand Treaty and the Kabul Treaty of 1921. The British and Afghan governments remained loyal to the implementation of the 1921 Kabul Treaty until 1949, until after the establishment of the government of Pakistan, and especially in protest against the bombing of parts of Paktia province by Pakistan. The Afghan government in the Loya Jirga of 1949 terminated all treaties with the British India government. At that time, the representative of Afghanistan tried to raise the issue in the United Nations Security Council, but it was prevented by the opposition of the United States. Therefore, with the application of the Article 14 of the Kabul Treaty of 1921, the Afghan government declared this treaty null and void, and accordingly, the validity period of the Durand Treaty and subsequent related agreements was terminated. It should be noted that the Article 45 of the 1969 United Nations Convention on Treaties VCLT, United Nations 1969 Vienna Convention of Law of Treaties, which makes the treaties concluded after 1969 subject to time. However, this convention does not go back to its predecessor, so it cannot be applied to the Durand Treaty and the Kabul Treaty of 1921. Accordingly, the Durand Treaty has no legal validity now and, with the consent of the Pashtun people on the eastern side of the Durand Line, the tribal areas subject of the Durand Treaty can be returned to Afghanistan. Thank you for your attention. Please do not forget to like the video, subscribe and click on the notification bell.